welcome to 350 Presents. 350 Presents is a series of presentations, participatory discussion, and expert-given lectures. Today, we are launching the series with our lecture, Mental Health in a Time of Coronavirus, given by our expert guest speakers, Dr. Nan Vandenberg, and experienced disaster mental health practitioner, Catherine DeLeon. Our first guest speaker is Dr. Nan Vandenberg. She is a psychotherapist and clinical professor emerita with the School of Social Work at Florida International University. She has been trained and provide critical incident stress debriefing for emergency response personnel, as well as for employees of governmental and nonprofit organizations, as well as businesses. She has authored several publications and offered conference presentations on methods of preventing and reducing stress-induced mental health symptoms. Without further ado, please receive Dr. Nan Vandenberg discussing crisis and stress response, a cognitive behavioral approach.
Okay, so I am delighted to be able to share this information with you about how to manage the stress from this coronavirus. I'm calling it a cognitive behavioral approach, because I'm going to be talking about the way that we can utilize our thinking and how to exercise our body in order to minimize the kind of stress we have. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to talk about the nature of stress. So number one, stress is an unavoidable part of life. And what it means is we're going along in a steady state, and then boom, an event happens, and then that event generates cognitive and behavioral outcomes. So the thing of it is, we cannot necessarily alter the circumstances that created the stress, but we have 100% capability of managing how that stress is impacting us. So there are three outcomes that can evolve from a crisis experience we're having. Number one, we will get back to our normal state. So that's important that you remember that this is temporary. It's not going to be long-term in how it's affecting you. And interestingly enough, we can actually get through this crisis and end up with better coping skills in general than before this crisis. And I want you to remember this. This is an important thing about a crisis. It happens, it feels very uncomfortable, very bad, but the outcome of it, and there will be that finish, you may end up with more coping capabilities and strengths than pre-crisis. So I want you to think about looking for the silver lining, because there will be a silver lining for you through this. The last is that we can end up in worse situation than we were before the crisis. And if that happens, it's simply because you did not employ the stress management strategies that I'm going to be teaching you in this presentation. And what this handout shows are all of the areas wherein we can be receiving outcomes. And so let's look at physiological first. We will have an increased heart rate. We will have increased blood pressure. There'll be palpitations and trembling and muscle tension and muscle tightness and possibly nausea and dizziness. In addition, it's possible to experience chest pain, as well as headaches, muscle pains, backache, stomach distress, sweating, and gastrointestinal distress. So I want you to understand these are all normal outcomes from experiencing a stressor. So if you have those, don't worry that you're having the virus affect you at this particular time, but these are the physiological responses you are likely to have. Okay, now let's look at the emotional reactions. Worry, anger, a sense of hopelessness, doubt, anxiety, a sense of worthlessness, fear. That's the big one that can cause us trouble. shame, frustration, depression, a sense of grief, a sense of loss. I'm sure many of you have experienced that, are experiencing it, as well as feeling overwhelmed. Shame, frustration, depression, a sense of grief, a sense of loss. I'm sure many of you have experienced that, are experiencing it, as well as feeling overwhelmed. Now, look at some of the behavioral reactions to going through a stress. We can engage in some compulsive overeating because food is a nice thing. So we might want to use food as a way to cope with this. And we could, unfortunately, smoke more if we smoke at all, and we might engage in escapist drinking, i.e., if I have a little wine, some beer, so on and so forth, all of this is going to go away. Well, in fact, it's not. As a matter of fact, that can exacerbate your physical symptoms. I want you to really be clear about that. And you might be using sedatives or tranquilizers. You might have some in your medicine cabinet, but do not overuse those, because that in and of itself will be problematic. And then we might find ourselves engaging in obsessive compulsive behaviors, sort of like, oh my God, I gotta do this, gotta do that, gotta do this, gotta do that. And you create a state of too much energy about something. And then you probably, I'm thinking, have seen some alteration in your sleeping habits that's very normal. And you might have emotional outbursts. You could just blow your head off or something. Well, you know what I mean by that. Or you could be withdrawing from people, and that's not a thing to do. If anything, you have to go in the opposite direction. You need to engage in other people, and that's why Zoom or FaceTiming is really very helpful for now. Now, here's another important area, cognitive. You might find that you're having a hard time with your memory, and you find that you're having a really difficult time making decisions and solving problems, and your attention span might be very short. It might be hard for you to do calculations and very difficult for you to concentrate. Those are normal cognitive stress reactions. So again, don't think something horrible is happening to you. You are having normal symptoms to what happens when we are confronted with this significant stress. Okay, so now I'm going to get into the model that I'm sharing with you, a cognitive behavioral model. And this is going to focus on how it's the 2 B's. Think of it as the 2 B's. I'm going to talk about how you can work with your brain as well as your body to make it through this stress. And your brain, I'm going to argue, is the most important, because I'm talking about your thinking. I'm talking about the thoughts that you have related to this corona pandemic and how it is impacting you. Your thoughts about yourself and this crisis are key to whether you successfully manage the stress or not. So we can have unhelpful and negative thoughts as well as positive. So I'm going to talk about the negative ones first, the unhelpful ones. I want you to be aware of creating cognitive distortions. A cognitive distortion is a kind of thinking that you're utilizing, which is really focusing on negatives. So here's some example. They can be catastrophizing thoughts, such as, I will never get over this. Nothing will ever be the same. Well, the thing of it is, things might be different, but that isn't necessarily all going to be negative. Or you might think, oh no, who will help me? I don't know who will help me through this. And then you might say something like, bad things, they always happen to me. I just have this little gray cloud over my head all the time. And you can say to yourself, I cannot deal with this. I absolutely cannot deal with this. Now, let's look at helpful thoughts. Helpful thoughts. Things like, yes, I will get through with this. And this is how I know I will. Because I've already in my life had some pretty tough things to deal with so far. Absolutely. But you know what? I got through them. I got through them. So the current crisis you are in may actually re-stimulate feelings and thoughts you've had from the past. And that's, again, very normative. Now, what I'd like to do right now is I'd like you to have your piece of paper and your pencil or pen. And what I want you to do right now, I want you to write down a situation that you have confronted in your life that was pretty tough to get through. Okay, do that. Just take a minute right now and write that down. What's the situation you've had to confront in your life before that was really hard? The good news is you're here today, okay? So you got through it. That's the bottom line. Now, this is what I want you to consider. What worked for you previously when you were confronted with this stressor? What worked for you? And on the other hand, what did not work for you? Put that down right now. Write down what's something or some things that I've done in the past that let me get through that stressful situation. Write that down. And also write down what are things I did that were not good. They were not helpful. So the bottom line is that you can apply to this situation things that you've done in the past. Okay? It's really very important. So you're a survivor. I want you to realize you're a survivor. If you're at this stage of your life, you've survived things, and you will also survive this as well. Now so I was talking about the negatives. Now I want to have you focus on the positive. Now, seriously, what are some of the positives or opportunities that you have experienced thus far as a result of this crisis? Because you have, I do believe, there are some positive things that you have experienced. Number one, how about not having to drive to work? Isn't that a blessing? I mean, seriously, that is a blessing because it's so difficult getting to work and back from work and all the traffic we have here in Southeast Florida. No traffic jobs, no traffic jams. That's wonderful. It's lovely. And here's something I am very much appreciating, having free time. I feel like in some regard, I am now the owner of my own time in the sense that I can do things that I want to do because I'm not required to be doing things that I have to do. Now, I believe that has to be the case for you. Come on now. There have to be some positives for you about this. How about learning how you can connect with family and friends by this interesting phenomenon of Zoom or FaceTiming? This is a great time to be connecting so we're not isolated. You're not isolated. If you're isolating, that's your choice, but you don't have to. You can do Zoom and you can do FaceTime and the old time phone. You must do this. Really, this is critical. Every day, you should be reaching out to at least one person. Find out how they're doing. Let them know how you're feeling. This is a human experience we all share, and it's going to be important for them to hear from you and you to hear from them, okay? So now, also focus on what you do have as opposed to what you don't have. And this is really important for us to consider. I have the opportunity to live in a very interesting place, Southeast Florida, And I have the opportunity to meet people from many different backgrounds, and that all is a blessing. And what are you grateful for? Now, this is important. It might sound trite, but it's not trite. You know, what am I grateful for? Well, I should be thinking about this every day, okay? I'm grateful to be as healthy as I am. I'm glad to be 73 and still capable of exercising and enjoying my life. I'm very grateful for that. And I'm grateful for my friends, and I am grateful for those people I consider to be my family. And what I want to say about that is I consider many of my family friends, and they are family. My friends are family. And that's very critical to remember as well. Now, what are you going to do about these not happy thoughts? I want you to learn how to do thought stopping. This is how you're going to do thought stopping. So I want you to consider something that you really do not want to be thinking about. You don't want to be thinking about it because it upsets you. So this is what I want you to do. Every time you begin to go in that direction with your thought, I want you to visualize the stop sign. So when you're going in that direction, stop. Say to yourself, stop. Visualize the stop sign. That really works. I really want you to try it. Okay, now the big piece also about thoughts is how our thinking creates a neurochemical reaction within our brain that causes many hormones to be released, some of which can be positive, but some are not necessarily so. Okay, so here's the deal. Have you heard about the fight or flight syndrome? That's the situation we get into when we're afraid of something, i.e. I'm crossing the road at a crosswalk and I see a car coming toward me. I go into fear. Okay, so what happens? You know, I start, my heart starts to pump, my lungs are dilating, and it's hard for me to think, it's hard for me to talk. And this is all because your body is going into a situation where the adrenaline system is activating. And because of that, that's what creates the heavy heartbeat and so on and so forth. And blood also goes to your extremities. It goes to your extremities. And also, we can actually have kind of, we can have sort of panic attacks. We can have a panic attack by virtue of our fear. And that's not healthy. And the other things that happen are you can have a difficult time digesting. And what is that all about? It's about anxiety. Anxiety is not good. And the thing of it is, you have the capacity to control your anxiety by not thinking those negative thoughts, those fearful thoughts, because the fight or flight syndrome enables you to be ready to escape. But this system was created millennia ago. This is how early persons survived. When they saw some beast running toward them, their danger response activated, and they were able to run away, okay? But we're not facing mammoths in front of us anymore. But that nonetheless is neurologically what happens to us. That is exactly what happens to us. Okay, so, and what happens if we are constantly in a state of anxiety? And unfortunately, there are many people who are continually anxious. And it's not unusual for those persons to have panic attacks on a regular basis, or have gastrointestinal distress, have any kind of, difficulty that has to do with our stomach. And the other thing is unmitigated stress over and over again can lead to heart disease. There's a lot of research that shows that, okay? And it can also set us up for cancer, because what happens is that all of these hormones, as they're going through your body, they're turning off, paradoxically, the immune system, because so much energy is going toward you getting out of that situation as fast as you can. So it's not healthy at all to be thinking those kinds of thoughts. And there is a solution to all this. Actually, here's something interesting as well. Persons with chronic anxiety, not unlikely to suffer from asthma, as well as to have skin disorders, such as eczema or psoriasis or something like that. However, we do have a solution to mediating all of this, and that is we can engage in exercise. And I'm serious about this. Because if you engage in 20 minutes of aerobic activity, which is when your lungs more active and so on and so forth, what happens is that a hormone called endorphin is released in your brain. Endorphins are wonderful gifts to us when we're in a period of despondency or anxiety. And what happens is the endorphins have a function of reducing our anxiety and our depression and making us feel better. Endorphins will make you feel better. So literally, by exercising, you can feel better because you're allowing the endorphins to be produced. Now, there's simple things you can do. You can walk, okay? You can walk outside. That's the best exercise we can do. And then, or you might do cycling, or you might do other regular activity that you're involved in. But here's some other activity, very aerobic, that I recommend you consider in this difficult time, and that's dancing. I'm serious. You can really get your heart beating by dancing. So I recommend everyone on a daily basis put on some dance music and dance to it. Maybe you could do a Zoom dance party. How about that? That would be cool, wouldn't it? Okay, so now I'm going to show you some exercises that you can do that will help your body. And we're going to start off with stretching. Stretching is very important because it keeps us limber, particularly if you're a 60-plus person. You need to stretch, okay? Now, I'm raising my left arm up. And I'm turning to the right as far as I can. And did you just feel some cracks or something? That means you needed to do this stretch. Now we're going to switch that. We're raising our right arm and we're going to the left. And your leg is, you're having your arm is going down your leg, okay? And now what we're also going to do is we're going to stretch our legs. Okay, so you're sitting in a chair, presumably. All right, so what you can do is stretch your legs out in front of you like this and point your feet forward and tense the muscles in your quadriceps. And can you feel that? That's good. That stretching is very, very good. We've got to be able to stretch the muscles in our shoulders, in our head. Okay, so right now, I want you to lift your shoulders up like this and down. Did you hear some cracks? Lift your shoulders up, and we're in front of the computer almost all the time. Well, that is a slight exaggeration, but we're in front of the computer a lot because many people, that's how they do your job. So can you understand how this is helpful? It's helpful because it stretches that. Okay, now we're going to think about our head. All right, we're turning our head to the right as far as you can go. Stretch, stretch, stretch. And now turn our head to the left, left, and stretch, stretch, stretch. And now forward. Let your head go back as far as you can. And while you're doing that, also raise your shoulders so your back is arched. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's very good. Okay, now let's rotate our head. Let's go to the right first, 360 degrees. And don't rush it. Can you feel the tightness in your neck? I sure can. Now to the left. Back up to the right. That is very, very, very helpful. But don't rush these things. You are going to not get the benefit of the exercise if you do it too fast. All right, now what I want to do is teach you some progressive muscle relaxation. Now you have a handout on this, so get your handout, progressive muscle relaxation. Okay, very good. All right, now the purpose of progressive muscle relaxation is to deal with the tightening of the body when you are in a state of stress, because in addition to the production of hormones in your brain, the adrenaline and so on, what also happens in that fight or flight syndrome is that your muscular system tenses up. Okay, that's what happens. It tenses up. It tenses up. So we have to know how to deal with that. So the purpose, again, is that it's going to give you a way that to understand how you can reduce that physiological attention. So the whole method is that you tighten and release. Tighten and release, and really tighten, because I want you to be able to feel the difference. Tighten and then release. Okay, so we're going to start with our right hand and forearm, okay? So you're putting your hand and forearm straight in front of you, as I am, straight in front of you. I want to tighten that, tighten that, tighten that, and then release it. Tighten it, tighten it, tighten it, and then release it. Now let's do the other hand. Tighten it, tighten it, tighten it, tighten it, tighten and tighten it, and release. Then we're going to do the area of our, we're going to do the area from our elbow to our shoulder. Okay, tighten that, tighten that, tighten that. You can feel your biceps. Tighten, 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 and then release. Okay, let's do the other one. Tighten, 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 and release. Okay, let's think about our legs again. So what we want to do is we want to put our legs in front of us. Okay, like this. Okay, okay, like this. Okay, legs in front of us. And now tighten, 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 tighten your feet. Forward, 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 and tighten, 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 tighten. Can you feel those muscles in your gluteals? Those are the muscles that are in your hip area. And now release. Okay, so tighten again and release. Now let's do this forward. So, okay, and then back, 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 back. Let us take our feet and go in a circle like this. A circle, a circle, a circle. In a circle, 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 circle. Once again, opposite direction. Circle, 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 circle. Release. Circle, 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 release. Okay, that's very good. I want to show you something also that it's actually more of a stretch, but I want you to see this. Okay, I'm on the floor, and I'll move back as far as I can. Okay, so this is what I want to be able to do. I want to be able to make a V with my legs, okay, and pull them as far as you can apart, and then hold that tension. Da, 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 da. Okay, now I want you to lean forward as far forward as you can. Can you feel those muscles working again? Very important, very important. And then come back. And then now let's take our right arm and move it to our left leg and go down our leg like this. These are such good exercises. Now, your left arm going down your right leg. Okay, this is good. Progressive muscle relaxation. Oh, no, we have a couple other. Okay, this is going to seem weird, but don't worry. Nobody's looking at you. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to tighten our face muscles as much as we can. It actually is kind of like a grimace. We're going to tighten, tighten, tighten those face muscles, and then we're going to release. Okay, here we go. Release. Okay, let's do that one more. Release. That's very good. Now take your tongue and put it and push it on the top of your mouth. Then release. Okay. All right. So that's an example of progressive muscle relaxation. If you want to learn more about this, just Google that online. But I'll tell you how it's helpful. In addition to this is for you to release the muscle tension that you have from your worrying. Your worrying creates muscle tension. That's why you must use your body as a kind of treatment for that. All right, so yes, this is also helpful, progressive muscle relaxation, if you are very tense and you can't get to sleep. I know this for a fact because I do it myself. Go through that routine. Go through that routine. Because why? Because that tensing and releasing it is going to untighten the muscles. It's very interesting. All right, now the other thing we're going to do, and this is super, super, super important, and that is we're going to learn about breathing. Breathing as a very good friend. You know, we can go without water for a while and food, but we can't go without breathing. I want you to take very seriously how you can calm yourself down with your breathing. It's miraculous and it works. All right, there's a couple of different types of breathing. There's diaphragmatic, it's all there. But then there's also belly breathing. And this is really good because it's deeper. I want you to put your hand, whatever hand, I don't care, left or right on your stomach. I want you to push your stomach out. Okay, so I want you to consciously breathe simultaneously with pushing your stomach out. Okay, you're going to at the same time breathe as you push out your stomach. So that's really good. Actually, that's deeper breathing than diaphragmatic breathing. Now, you got to practice that a bit to get the hang of it. So let's try it again, okay? All right, you feel a little lightheaded? That's good. All right, now, really getting control of your breathing is very helpful. And I practice what I'm preaching, because if I'm going through life and I'm feeling really stressful about something in the mountain, in the in the moment, then what I do is I'll breathe. This always works, okay? If I'm getting nervous or upset or something, I do deep breathing. And it gets me out of it. Could you feel your chest is lightening up, okay? Now, what we're going to do that is going to be a combination of mind and body is meditation. Oh, I ask you to try to meditate. This might be the healthiest thing you can ever do for yourself. So how do you meditate? All right, you're sitting in your chair, and I want you to sit with your back straight and pretend that there's some string going from the top of your head to your ceiling. In other words, keep that nice straight back. Okay, now what we're going to do is we are going, and there's a position for your legs. If you can do so, you could sit on the floor in lotus position. I think you know what I mean, but that might not work for everybody. But you can sit in a chair and you can cross your legs at your ankles. Cross your legs at your ankles, okay? That'll work. That'll work just as well. All right, now, and our hand position. Our hand position is like this. Our right hand is in our left hand. And this is very important. Our right hand is in our left hand. You see what I'm doing? Right hand is in left hand. Very good. Okay. Now, I want you to drop your head a bit. Drop your head a bit, such as I'm doing right now. Dropping my head, but I'm keeping my back straight. I want you to find something to be looking at. Right now, I'm looking at a piece of the carpet. Okay, I'm looking at that. All right. And what we're going to do is we're going to breathe, counting our breaths from 1 to 21. From 1 to 21. Do the breathing. So here's an example. 1, 2, keep counting. If your mind starts to wander, you start yourself thinking about things, just go back to the breath again. Just go back to the breath again. Start again at 1 and just keep going. So we were at 11, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. All right, now if you did that, you should feel your chest really untighten. You feel very untightened, maybe even a little sleepy. This is what I've learned is the best possible sleeping pill. Before I go to bed, I've had a lifetime challenge with insomnia. So before I go to bed, I sit in a chair. I have a candle in front of me. I light the candle and I stare at that candle as I do the breathing from 1 to 21. And it just so relaxes. It's so relaxing. And then I can get to bed, because why can't you get to bed? Because you're worried, you're nervous. You know, you're just creating that fight or flight syndrome. I just hope you practice what I was just preaching.
Thank you, Dr. Nan Vandenberg.
Thank you.
Now we will continue with Catherine DeLeon, experienced disaster mental health practitioner. Catherine has had an extensive experience in her professional career providing therapy and managing community mental health clinics in recent immigrant communities: Mexican, Central American, South American, Caribbean, and Southeast Asian. She has presented at local, national, and international conferences on culturally competent mental health services. She has participated in federal and local grant reviews and in the design and implementation of biocultural mental health services. She has also deployed mental health staff and volunteers to respond to natural disasters and provide oversight of their services. Currently, she is the disaster mental health program lead for the American Red Cross, South Florida region.
Okay, well, thank you. I mean, if you actually work through those with Dr. Vandenberg, you should be feeling a certain amount of calm, relax, as she was saying that the exercises would help you to do. And that's very important. That's what we need in this uncertain time. So in the face of uncertainty, and we're worrying and everything, we've practiced everything that Dr. Vandenberg has suggested. But if you could remember, actually, the 4 letters contained within the word calm. So the C is always, just think about we actually can control. But we can't control how many tests are giving or not giving or who's doing what or whatever. But for calmness and to rule out all this muddling uncertainty, think about what you can control. A is being available to our children and our family. So we need that social circle, and we need to be the conduit for that social circle. L is for listening to our children, not just, pushing the noise away, listen to what they have to say. And the other part of L is limit the time that you're watching news, because so much of it is really repetitive. And M is for modeling to the other members of your family, either that are with you or that you social media contact, but to model the calming behaviors. So this is very unsettling times for everybody. If you worked, you're not going to work. If you have children, they're not going to school. So everything's all topsy-turvy. What you should do is create a schedule. I mean, a real schedule, and post it on the refrigerator or a bulletin board. I mean, that is a schedule for the family. See, we may be in a position where we are working from home. We are parenting 24/7, whereas we don't usually because they go to school or something. And then on top of that, we're being teachers. We have to help with our children's education. So that's a lot of balancing that we need to try to figure out how to do. And if you create this schedule and stick to it, then everybody knows, they have an expectation. I mean, when they're in school or they're at work, they have schedules, and that's what keeps order and things moving along. So you should create a schedule in your home, but don't set the expectations super high when you make that schedule, because if you bite off more than you can chew, then you won't complete it all, and you'll feel a certain amount of failure or frustration. So in terms of family constellations, groupings, and whatever your family is constituted of, and we have many different family constellations now, but they're all families. If there were some ongoing issues or just bubbling below the surface, where there's maybe some substance abuse, drinking a little bit too much, tempers get high, people get pushed, and all sorts of crises, there are an increase in domestic violence and substance abuse. So it's up to us us as members of family to try to keep that down, because you don't want it in your family. One thing that you can do, very important, is to keep in the moment. While everybody is there 24/7 all together, when we go to work or someone goes to school, it is actually like a little escape valve. But we don't have those escape valves now. So we're all there. So now's the time just to think about the present. Concentrate on what needs to be in that schedule, how you need to do it. It's not the time to be bringing up what could have, what should, all these other issues that muddy up staying in the present. So we can move forward if we're just focused on what we're doing. Now, there's certain things that are specific for children. They have fears and concerns also. I mean, they see us. They see the news. They see other people talking about this. So, of course, they know what's going on as much as they can based on their age and understanding. But you should talk about it. Let them talk about it. Encourage them to talk about it. Do monitor the amount of TV they watch. Maybe you could not put the television on. But talking with your teens also is very important, that they get the correct information. So you might give your teenagers sort of like a chore to do. They could contact the respected, reputable experts on what's going on with the coronavirus. So I would direct them to the Center for Disease Control, and I would direct them to the Florida Department of Public Health. So, our teenagers are very tech savvy, so they'll know how to find these websites and get the information on phone. And that gets them busy, and be introducing them to correct factual information. But encourage that they also talk about their thoughts and their feelings, and let them express their fears. Thoughts, worries, be supportive and sympathetic. Don't overreact to anything they say. If they say, well, am I going to die? You don't go, oh, no, you're not going to die. You just discuss it, because you're modeling. If you overreact, then you're modeling anxiety. But be prepared for hard questions. Am I going to get sick? Are you going to die? So be sympathetic and supportive and reassuring as I ask these questions. You can't say, no, I'm not going to die, but you can be reassuring that we're doing everything we can. Our community is doing everything we can to make sure that we get through this. And then give them direct, age-appropriate answers. So if they ask you something, answer that and don't add to it. They have a question, answer that. If they come back with another question that goes a little deeper or takes it to a different direction, okay, answer that one. But don't provide all those things to them right off the bat when they give you a question. And all along, always be reassuring them. We're doing everything we can to be healthy. You can be reassuring with words, and then because they're your family and you're there together, you can hug those people. And if you are not a person who is likened to express endearment, love, whatever, do it. It'll help. It'll be very reassuring. If you do that already, do it more. Be more emphatic when you do it. But they need this constant support and reassurance. So you can reassure by actions, and that is keeping family routines, meal times, bedtimes, so that there is some normalization of things for them. And if you have an area where you can go outside together, but be social distance, of course, but do that, and you'll get some of the same exercise that Nan was talking about. Now, there's one thing, some people are single parents. You may not have anybody to talk to. Do not lean on your children. Don't express your fears to your children. Don't ask for them to reassure you. Your job as a parent is to reassure them. Now, you know your child's personality, and there's certain things that happen when there's a stress, like from hurricanes or whatever. There are reactions that are specific to children. So they could have sleep problems. They could have changes in their bowel movements or their urinary tract. Kids have been known that were potty trained have been known to wet their bed all the time in severe stress. So it's not the time then to begin to train them or reprimand them for what they're doing, reassure them it's okay. And they will revert to their potty training habits when things have calmed down. They may have a change in appetite. They begin to eat more or eat less. Again, you're the gauge because you know what their normal appetite is. They could maybe have problems with the schoolwork. Of course, this is all online school they're doing now, so we don't know how well it's going to go anyway. They could become moody, irritable. They could start to complain, oh, I have a headache all the time. They could be inattentive, not be able to concentrate. They could withdraw, not talk, or they could become over emotional for what seems like no reason at all, just sort of like blow up. And then they have a lot of fear about losing their caregivers, and they become clingy, hanging around the parent all the time. You have to let it happen. That's normal. So I think that these are just sort of ground rules, tips and whatnot, but I have prepared a list of resources that are specific to the coronavirus. So here we have Florida Blue Shield, which, yeah, it's an insurance company, but this is 24-hour statewide free emotional support hotline, and you do not have to be a member of their insurance, and it's in English and Spanish. Catholic Charities has the same 24-hour hotline going on. That's for Palm Beach County, and we do have it here in this archdiocese, which is Broward, Miami-Dade, and Monroe. No charge, no religious affiliation or whatever. Then there's the Jewish Community Services, which is they have a 24-hour hotline, and that's available in English, Spanish, and Creole. And again, these are coronavirus-specific hotlines. The Borinquin Medical Center, which is English and Spanish, is a 24-hour line. You have to say you're requesting mental health services, otherwise they'll send you to some other department. The Henderson Mental Health Clinic, which is Broward County, they have a daytime and an after-hours number. Nova Southeastern University has instituted Touch Base, and you access this by emailing COVID. You can see a COVID-19 support between 8 in the morning and 8 in the evening. Then you enter Touch Base contact in the subject line, include your first name and phone number, and then they'll call you back within an hour. Then there's another resource for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer youth. This you access by going to their webpage. And it's for Miami-Dade youth and under, free mental health counseling. Then there's a Children's Bereavement Center, which has free virtual bereavement groups for children, adults, and families. This number they're putting up there is coronavirus specific, and they do groups in English and Spanish, virtual. They have created a nomenclature for them in this time, and I think it's very poignant. It's no hugs, no funeral, no goodbye. Every time I think of that, that gets me right there. But anyway, it's for residents of Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach. So a lot of people have elder people who are in their family who are passing away with coronavirus. They do family groups, they do children's. I mean, this is a wonderful resource. Then there is what is the SAMHSA Disaster Distress Hotline. That's Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration. And from the federal level, you phone them up and they have access to the resources in your area. And then there's the 211 number. That's not 911, but it's 211, which is a 24-hour local helpline with information on all resources, including mental health. So I hope these resources and the few comments that I made are going to be helpful for you or for your friends or your family. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Catherine and Nan, for those great presentations, so relevant and needed during this crisis. If anyone would like to learn more about these shared resources, please include your email and we will follow up with you. Thank you very much to our speakers and to our participants. We wish you health and we'll see you in our next 350 Presents. In about 2 weeks, date will be announced soon. Thank you very much.